welcome back, everybody. This is episode 20 of the Clappercast. My name is Sean,
And I'm Burke.
and we have just finished watching Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. St. Louis, of course, has won the Stanley Cup for the first time in their 52-year history.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Sorry for anyone who hasn't watched the game yet, in case you had it on your TiVo or whatever.
TiVo. A modern man, you truly are.
Yes, I think so, right?
Yeah. 4-1 St. Louis. Just like first thoughts of the game. It didn't seem like it was gonna go that way in the first 10 minutes of the game. I really thought Boston had it. They came out flying and it looked like they were gonna take it. And Binnington shut the door and allowed his team to get back in it, and St. Louis just kind of took over the game halfway through that first, and they kind of never let up.
Yeah, so I missed the first little bit, but I kept hearing about Boston came out just dominant. And like you said, Binnington just held them in it. He made huge saves when he needed to. And then all it took was just one, don't want to say a fluke play, but just one bounce to go the Blues' way. And they get a couple of late goals, and suddenly the game is just done after the first. Because honestly, after those goals, Boston was out of it.
Yeah, so Brian O'Reilly got a tip goal off of a Bouwmeester slapper. And it was a really nice tip. That was about halfway through. I think it was like, I don't know, like 9 minutes into the first or something like that, or 8-10 minutes. I can't remember exactly. But Boston had been pushing, and then that was kind of like the one scoring chance that I can remember up to that point for St. Louis, and it went in. And then with 8 seconds left in the first, they got another goal, and that one is more of note because it was on a stupid fucking play by Brad Marchand. He had a
Yeah.
really bad change, really
So like
bad.
that was kind of like two bad changes at once. Not to mention he got completely walked by whoever took the puck into the zone there. He was just standing there, and Blue just went right around him. But like, what did he signaled for a change when the puck was coming back, and then he waved it off. So the guy who came onto the ice had to jump off, and then he backed up like 10 feet. So the Blue went around him, and then he just bolted off the ice. Like,
Yeah, I
what was that?
I remember what series was that in where he had that other stupid play where he like came across the entire ice to cover a guy and it led to a 2-on-1. Do you remember that?
I do. I can't remember when it was, but I definitely remember that play because you and I were both talking about asking what in the world he was doing.
I can't remember if that was against Columbus or Carolina. But he's put up fucking good points in the playoffs, but he looked off for
That
the
whole line did.
finals.
Yeah.
I think there was some practice or something where he kind of got banged up or something. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, he just didn't look like himself. He wasn't shooting the puck ever, except for that one goal he got in Game 6. It's just maybe just a lack of confidence because he wasn't
Yeah.
shooting the puck, and he's got a fucking hell of a shot. I mean, he got that snipe power play goal in Game 6, and
That one timer was an absolute rocket.
yeah, that's hard to
That was
do.
that was one of the best shots I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and he'd try to like bring the puck in wide, but then he'd stop every single time and do like that loop back, look for the trail, and he wouldn't try and beat anybody wide, which is something that he usually is known for. And it's just crazy that he wouldn't shoot the fucking puck right in the slot or anything. He'd look for a pass, and he got to have that killer instinct, which is something that he usually has. So it was kind of surprising to see him not do that.
It's
Um,
like the Bruins were kind of caught on their heels a bit, and they're just starting to try too hard. Like, you kind of get that when you're playing from behind a little bit, or you have a few rushes that just, or chances that just don't go in, and you start like trying to force something that isn't there. And especially with the Bruins, I imagine that they were being coached to kind of get Binnington moving. So of course he's going to be thinking like, oh, I can't shoot now. I have to get the puck somewhere else so it can come back, or like get a one-timer off another guy.
They definitely lost momentum and really struggled to get back in the game. Almost that entire second period was just nothing.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember a single highlight from the second period?
No, it was slow as hell.
It was real
And like
boring.
St. Louis just sat back because Boston wasn't doing anything. They couldn't get anything going.
I honestly can't remember a single
No.
highlight.
No, they were
And
completely disengaged. Completely.
but it kind of kicked off again in the third. Bruins had a little bit of a pushback. Binnington made some fucking monster saves,
Yeah, what was that,
and
about halfway through the third? there was like the pace just suddenly jumped up big time, like got a bit more back and forth, and then happened like that one save by Binnington where he stretched out his right leg
Right.
and just caught it in like that crease where it goes into the toe. He just caught the puck in there.
Who was that
And
on?
like that, it was
Nordstrom or
still two
something?
nothing at the time. I think so. Yeah,
No
and it was
goals
still
between 8 seconds left in the first and 8:30 or so in the third period.
right.
So
It
I don't
died down.
know. It definitely died down. Remarkable that the Blues were able to shut down for so long. Bruins were
Hmm.
trying to get some plays going and stuff, especially in the third, but just nothing happening
Well,
for
it hits
them.
a certain point where it doesn't matter what you do, like you know it's not going to happen. Like it just wasn't their night.
Sucks be a home game. You just can't get anything going. But the Blues have been like that all year, basically, just playing better on the road and bouncing back. This is kind of their team mentality.
Yeah, it's kind of their jam,
Coming back
really.
from adversity and battling hard, get where they want to be. Last place team in January and to win the cup, that's pretty fucking unreal. And it's great for the league to have that parity. And, it was kind of a soft year for like a lot of those middle of the pack teams. There's a lot of teams that could have made playoffs. There wasn't a huge disparity between the point totals, and for them to be able to jump back into playoffs from being last is outstanding. And to just battle through 4 fucking rounds to win the cup is just remarkable. It's
Yeah.
really, really great.
Yeah, so like on that, like two things or two notes for that for me. You said it's great for the league for the parity, and it's also great because now we're gonna have more of a never say die attitude amongst the players, the teams, and the fans. That we've heard a lot over the last 5 years of that like American Thanksgiving deadline, basically. That if you're in the playoffs at this point, you're probably going to be in the playoffs. If you're not, you're probably not going to. And yeah, it's only one team. Like it's only one team that did it big time like that this year, but they won the cup out of it. Like this wasn't like make the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round as the eighth seed or something. This was a full turnaround. So that's great from that perspective. To now fans are going to be more able to think like, well, there's still a chance for us. And like for
So
me as
you're
an
saying
Oilers
there's a
fan,
chance?
yeah, exactly. As an Oilers fan, like that's all we've had for 10 years is like, so you're saying there's a chance?
Getting back to the game, I mentioned that third period goal, one of them anyway. That was a Shen goal. That was an absolute fucking snipe. He went kind of like, it looked like, I don't know if it went off the post and in or just right beside the post low, and it was absolute fucking laser of a pass from Tarasenko in the corner. That was an unreal pass. You see Tarasenko going for a loose puck in the corner, left
Oh yeah,
corner.
yeah. I'm
Then
watching it right
he
now.
checks his shoulder, and then he fucking rockets a pass to Shen like wide open in the slot. I think you said to me McAvoy was just a little lost on that one. I think that was that goal. And
It was.
yeah, Shen just got into some open ice, fucking made it count. That was a really nice goal.
It was.
Nice
It was a
shot,
great
nice
play.
pass, just kind of out battling the team. And yeah, that's just kind of that game in a nutshell. The Blues just out battled, and they fucking cashed in on it.
Exactly. And yeah, like McAvoy on that one. So he got beat by I'm guessing I guess it was Tarasenko heading to the corner. And then he's facing the other way from where he's supposed to be covering, like the guy going into center at that point. He's facing the other way looking in the corner, and then Shen just kind of skates right in behind him, and he's not even facing the puck. Like McAvoy didn't even turn around to look at it. He kind of like threw his stick there as the pass went, but that was a bit of a weak play by him that Shen was able just to skate right into the high slot like that and fire one off.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. Like the first period, I have some notes just like started pretty nervous for both teams as they're super scrambly. And then I have a note here that the Bruins found their game and Binnington responds. Like it really looked like the Bruins just came to play, and they just got shut down and couldn't get it going since then. They just kind of
Yeah.
didn't have the mentality to overcome that. Like it's not going to be that easy. Within the first 10 minutes, you're not going to win the game.
Hmm.
It looked like Krejci, Marchand, and Johansson were having like a really good game. I mean, Mojo had a good game, I think, overall. He was one of the Bruins that I thought played really well.
He's been one of the best Bruins over the whole playoffs, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, I
honest,
like
like
him.
none of their top line I would even put as like their best players because especially they seem to just fade out and they haven't been who they need to be. Like those depth guys like Coyle and Johansson and like hell Nordstrom too.
Yeah.
Those are the names that have been prominent all postseason consistently, and I think those three have been probably the best Bruins for a large part of the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know where Marchand got all of his points, if they were like majority of if they were in earlier rounds or what, how many he got in the finals, but I think he was their point leader because he was leading playoffs for I think most of playoffs until tonight,
I think they did
and
pretty good early on
then O'Reilly passed him tonight.
because like the Bruins were the top scoring team in the first couple of rounds I think.
Okay,
So yeah, I imagine he got a lot of points from that.
probably against Toronto.
Yeah, that's the important one. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, it definitely counts for something, right?
Yeah, they
um,
were actually the second highest scoring team in the playoffs.
all right. He was
So
first, St. Louis.
Vegas
Like per game?
per game, yeah,
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, how does
goals,
that
goals
work?
per game. Sorry, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Vegas scored a lot of goals in the first round. We just didn't see them.
right, yeah. They got all disallowed or something.
It's actually in the alternate universe where they continued on.
So I wanted to bring up, so it's cool to have another team win for the first time.
That's my favorite at this point.
Blues, I think, were the NBC kept saying it all night that they were like the longest streak of not winning in the NHL. It's pretty outstanding. It's going to be great for that city. You know, they have a really long history of doing really well in baseball. I think they've had some success with like when the Rams were there, but
We're not supposed to talk about them anymore, apparently. St.
yeah,
Louis doesn't like them.
press F to pay respects.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think it's going to be great. St. Louis is going to be toasted ravioli for everybody. It's cool.
yeah. Like they've got a pretty good hockey market. It's just not very prominent because there's a good stretch. I think it was a couple years ago where there were like a handful of guys that grew up basically with Keith Kachuk and his kids that all got drafted together in the first round. And there was just like a handful of these guys from St. Louis from that time period. And like they have a good hockey market. They have a good team, but they've always kind of been overshadowed by baseball, by the football team that shall not be named. And just kind of being in I don't want to say a weird location, but just it doesn't really scream hockey.
Right.
And they've been so close so many times through their history too, because they were one of the really really good teams about around the 2000s, the turn of millennium, when they had like Pronger and all them.
Is that when
And
did they
they
have
like
Cujo then and Brett Hull at the same time?
probably like that was pretty much when they got that moniker as like the Chokers.
Right. How fucking hammered do you think Hully is right now?
I imagine he was before, so I can only imagine now.
He's probably in the dressing room with the boys just getting smashed.
I think he got named like the drunkest man in America or something. I don't know what exactly that is or like what the credential of that is, but
Just be drunk all the time.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, so that
it's
was
pretty
actually
cool.
back when they had Quenneville as a coach around
Oh yeah.
2000. I keep forgetting he was there. I only know him from Chicago.
Yeah, and now Florida.
And yeah, well, Florida not yet. We need to wait until the mustache gets on the Panther.
Oh yeah. So the second part of that I wanted to bring up is that this ends the streak of having a new cup loser
Right.
because Boston has lost to Chicago. So now that streak is over. Thanks, Boston.
Yeah, so that was the big storyline for me going into the Cup final was which streak is going to get ended, the Boston sweep streak or the no repeat losers in the Cup final since the first lockout or the full season lockout.
Well, now we have a new streak of teams winning the cup for the first time. It's officially a streak now. It's two.
That's a streak.
So who's next? Canucks?
No.
Seattle? Vegas?
Seattle. Yeah, probably. Vegas has a good shot next year, I
What
think.
other teams don't have a cup now? It's Vancouver,
Columbus,
Vegas,
Minnesota, Nashville,
Nashville, San Jose.
Winnipeg.
Is that pretty
Yeah, I mean,
much it?
I'm pretty sure it's like a third of the league has never won the cup.
Okay. Yeah, that
I'm
could
I'm
probably
just
be
trying to
it
look.
then. Trashville,
I already
Canucks.
said Nashville, yeah.
I know.
I
Sharks,
guess yeah. Trashville is a different team.
Vegas. Jets, it's 5. Oh, Wild, you said. Columbus. Yeah, I don't know. 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah, Florida,
Oh
Ottawa,
yeah, Florida.
Buffalo.
A few more.
Yeah, but none of those teams are going to win it next year. Actually, maybe Florida has a big turnaround with a great new coach.
Yeah, and if they have a as exciting offseason as everybody thinks, could be a far different team next season than they were this season. Oh, remember like a few podcasts ago, I was trying to remember the other guy on Florida. I couldn't remember his name. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
It was Trocheck.
Trocheck. Okay,
Yeah,
I kept having some guy with V, like I think it was Frankie Vetrano. I kept having that name in my head for some reason.
yeah. I couldn't remember Vincent Trocheck.
Okay, so we'll go back and we can revise that episode now.
Edit it out. Yeah. Now that it doesn't matter at all. Um, yeah, so Ryan O'Reilly fucking winning the. He's the first player since Gretzky in 1985 to score a goal in 4 straight finals games.
Which like that is just so impressive, and just a big shout out to him for how he stepped up in when it actually mattered the most.
Yeah, I mean to be the first player since Gretzky, doesn't matter what it is. That's a fucking impressive accolade to have.
Who cares what it is? You were the first since Gretzky. That is automatically insanely good.
Yeah, it could be like you were the first player since Gretzky to enter this bar. That's still impressive. You're
Oh
following in
yeah.
the footsteps of greatness. So it doesn't matter. It's still something to brag about. And he also had a really fucking excellent post-game interview with Scott Oak.
Yeah, that was great.
Where he immediately swears and then apologizes right after.
Pop open the text here. He said, "Yeah, we knew we were gonna fucking get it," and then immediately after, he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And
Yeah.
then as he was ending the interview, said something like, "Again, I'm so sorry for swearing. I feel so bad," as he skates away. Such as like wholesome Ryan O'Reilly.
Watch out, Tim. He's gonna
Yeah, really.
get plastered and drive around with the cup, smash through fucking Tim Hortons again. Yeah. So speaking of swearing, you were watching CBC. I was watching NBC. And when the guys get the cup, they're obviously going like "fucking right" and "woo, fuck yeah," all that. And they had a mic on, so you could hear all of it. Just like that's what we want to hear. We want to hear what they're saying. Unless it's Tarasenko who doesn't know how to use his words and he just skates around like holding it like an action figure.
No one programmed that type of emotion into him.
Yeah, yeah.
He just has this like blank look on his face as he's hoisting the cup skating around.
Yeah. So when it went to commercial and then it came back, Doc Emmerich was like, "Oh, so there was some colorful language that the mic was picking up on the ice, so we've turned it off." It's like, fuck. That's what everyone wants to hear. Everybody wants to hear the player reactions and their emotion. And it just sucks that they turn it off. I get it because like it's fuck, like audible fucks.
Can't have too many of those before the whatever that organization is starts hammering down your door.
Yeah, the network's gonna come down and be like, okay, we need to turn this shit around. But yeah, I mean that was kind of shitty. You just want to feel the emotion, and after you've had like 18 fucks on the air, who cares? Like at that point, the damage has been done. All the children are ruined, and they're never gonna be the same. They're gonna be fucking, in jail in a couple of years now. It's they're tarnished. Those children are
swearing,
ruined.
swearing is a gateway drug to crime.
It is known. You might win the cup someday if you swear, so you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do that.
No. Hey, how about we go back to games 5 and 6? There are some important events in game 5.
Sounds
Notably,
like you have a point to make here.
yes. Notably, Ivan Barbashev's hit that I somehow managed to miss until like 20 minutes ago when I watched it for the first time. But that was just a bad hit. I don't know if you can remember it off the top of your head.
On Marcus Johansson?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Mojo was leaning forward, but he just skated right through his upper body, like right into his collarbone, his jaw, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a bad play.
No
And
call on the ice.
yeah, no call on the ice, of course.
And a suspension after the fact.
That was totally justified, which one thing that's kind of on the Blues winning is just how they've been playing the series and how they approached it, because they've been borderline the whole series,
Yeah, I'd agree
and
with that.
they've been pushing that edge of what's clean and dirty the entire series, and you kind of expect. I mean, Boston has the reputation of doing that with certain players, but the Blues just came in and took that to the next level.
Yeah, I'd say Boston definitely has that with just Brad Marchand, but for the most part, the rest of their team is more of a finesse, speedy team, right?
Yeah,
I guess there's David Backes, but
Jake DeBrusk, according to Toronto fans.
yeah, the scum of the earth, according to Toronto.
Yeah, and yeah, I think what was it, four in NHL history? There's only been four suspensions handed out in the Stanley Cup Final, and two of them were this year to St. Louis. Which, like, that's pretty telling, because it takes a lot to get these guys suspended in the Cup Final. And like, yes, the rules are a little bit more strict, and certain hits are not going to fly anymore compared to in the past. But for it to happen twice in the same round, and for the amount of kind of whining and bitching that Berube was giving the refs for whatever reason, I don't know. Because quite honestly, the Blues kind of had the favorable calls, or the more notable ones going their way.
They definitely did. They definitely had the benefit of the doubt from the referees. And in game 6, or no, game 5, yeah, game 5, they, at the very end of the game, they had the fucking benefit of the doubt on a very obvious penalty.
Are we talking about the slew foot there on Achari?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was. I don't know how that doesn't get called.
I don't know either. That's a obvious penalty.
Borderline suspension worthy. Like the way he came in from behind and took the leg out like that.
It's almost to the letter slew foot,
Mm-hmm.
and Bozak turns around totally expecting a call. So it's very surprising and just astounding. There's no call there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you made the point about Berube. I really don't understand where he gets off complaining about that. Um, Considering, like you said, they were getting the majority of the calls in their favor. And yeah, they got fucked over in the San Jose series for one game. That was worse, a worse non-call hand pass that led in overtime. But that's not
Yeah,
the
and
same
going
series.
back to that one too, that one you can look at the play, watch it, and realize that the fault isn't entirely on the refs. It's on the way the rule is written. Because if you watch the ref who should have called that, he had the net and Binnington between, like, directly between Meyer and the ref. So, like, of course he can't see it fully, and that should be something that can be reviewed, especially in overtime. But the way the rule is written, that it has to be on the ice, so that's not even entirely on the ref. But this one, the ref is right there looking at it. That's a, like you say, to the letter slew foot basically, and it doesn't get called like that. I've seen, like, we see less things get called as tripping, and that's totally fine apparently.
The most common penalty in the NHL has got to be tripping. And as you said, it's right in front of the referee. So there's really no particular rhyme or reason why that wasn't called, rather than the ref just had a fucking brain fart and forgot he was reffing in the Stanley Cup Finals and didn't call anything. And it led to a fucking goal after.
Or maybe he remembered he was in the Cup Finals.
Yeah, you
Put the whistle away.
yeah. I mean, I've reffed obviously nowhere close to that level of hockey. But it's kind of the same situation. You always hope when you miss a call, it never leads to a goal, and it sucks that that had to happen on such a big stage, a non-call, especially when there's two refs out there, two sets of eyes on it, and there's nobody in the way of either referee on that play.
Exactly.
So it's like, what the fuck happened?
And that one ended up being the game winner, right?
I believe so.
I think that was Perron's game winner.
Yeah, that was Perron game winner. Yeah, because it was a 2-1 game, right?
I think so.
Fucking
Which,
insane.
yeah. And again, I mean, the both coaches actually. I mean, Cassidy was more commenting on Berube commenting on the refs, or just kind of like getting asked a dumb question about it and responding to it rather than calling them out directly.
Right.
But like, we now start seeing coaches and players like directly calling out the refs.
Which she used to be getting fined for,
Used to be.
and now it's more and more prevalent, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
like it. I get the frustration, but it comes across as whiny and a sign of weakness, I would say. And I guess it works because Berube bitched and then they got calls. So I really hope that that's not the direction that the league goes in, and I hope it's not a pattern moving forward, that teams can just fucking call out referees and it ends up working out in their favor. I really hope that that doesn't happen. Be more professional and not call out referees. Don't embarrass them, because it can work. Either you get the calls or they're going to go hard on you. You get the whole Calgary Flames treatment, where
Yeah, from
that's a
Weidman.
bit more of a exaggerated example, but you know what I'm saying, right? Um,
Exactly.
and we were talking about how people know referees more these days, and I was thinking about when I was watching one of the games, how Pierre Maguire, he always mentions which linesman or which referee it is, which is fine. It's, he's the fucking ultimate stat guy. He knows exactly where everybody's from and where they play junior hockey and who they're drafted for in the OHL. But he always mentions the referees in the game. Whereas most of the times it's just, unless they like get hurt or something, or it's just usually at the very beginning of the game, they say, okay, tonight's referees are Chris Rooney and Dan O'Halloran, and our linesmen are whatever, right?
Take that, Liney.
Yeah. Um, our linesmen are the guy who looks like McDavid, and I don't know another linesman off the top of my head. There's one named Johnny. I know
Yeah,
that.
I know what you mean.
But he'll always say like, oh, that's blah 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 dropping the puck, and like he doesn't really mean anything by it, but it's getting their name out there more during the game, so people are associating like, oh, that linesman hates our team because he keeps kicking out our center or something. So it's building that more of a it's people know who they are
Adversarial
more.
relationship,
Yeah, it's
big time.
I don't think it's good. I think peers should knock it off and not mention them. I mean, but at the same time, like they're people. So that is who it is. It's kind of a weird thing. Like I don't think you want people to know who the referees are. It should just be a referee and a linesman. It shouldn't be like, oh, we got this fucking guy again, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, and to build on that, you start seeing too, I can't remember where exactly online, but there is actually a site that posts stats of the refs, basically that shows like what the team's record is when this ref or this linesman plays or officiates the game they're in. And it shows like penalty calls for and against and team like each team's record and all that. And it's like, why is this relevant? Like this doesn't, you're making it look like the refs are dictating the outcome of the game by posting all of that. Like, okay, you want stats, cool, like coincidental, whatever win loss record here with this ref, and that's the exact opposite with this ref, like fine. But you're basically just developing these like hate relationships with certain referees over your team over things that are technically not in their control. Like, yeah, you might lose a little bit more with a certain ref, but it's like, okay, you're probably playing a game with that ref officiating against certain opponents that you typically lose more against too. I think they're kind of regional, right? Or they stick with certain teams more.
I think they're regional.
It's either regional or they do more games with certain teams to kind of like
Well,
ease the
I would
travel schedule.
imagine that I'd imagine that they get paid travel. So they probably move them around as infrequently as possible so that they don't have to pay out the ass for travel and per diem and all that shit. But it's so easy to get caught up in that stuff because there's like something like insane stats that come out. Like I think when Steve Kozari refed St. Louis this playoffs, they won every single game. And like I don't think that that's yeah, I don't think that there's any correlation there. It's just like correlation does not equal causation or
Exactly.
whatever that saying is, right?
Exactly.
It's just like it's an interesting stat, but it's not like it's gonna happen if he refs the game. You're not gonna win.
Yeah, and then like you go into the game either pissed off or expecting certain things, and then you start, noticing all the little things, like stuff that you wouldn't normally even notice because it's just a whatever play in the grand scheme of the game.
Yeah. I mean there are some that I see value in, maybe not win or losing the game, but like I saw a stat, I don't know if I think it was this season, this when the Capitals were playing Carolina. It was like every game that Dan O'Halloran refed against the Capitals had a they had I don't know what the phrasing it is, but they had more penalties than the other team every single time. So I don't know what that would be called, like a call ratio, right? Like a
Something like that.
I don't know, something anyway. So every time that he refs, basically the Caps get more calls than their opponents, which I think is something that is probably looked at by the supervisory staff of referees, like because that's something that shouldn't occur.
Not on a
Every
regular
single
basis,
time,
yeah.
and he's been in the league for a long time, so that's something like a stat like that. I think is at least there's some value in talking about it, but it's so hard because it's not just one referee, like soccer is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like who's the other one and who are the two linesmen? Like
What happens when there's like we win every time this guy refs us, or and he refs with a guy who every time he refs us we lose? Like what happens there? Like
the game never ends.
y- yeah, you just play until eternity. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird that there's stats for referees, and I don't like that people know their names so well.
Yeah. I think
Um,
one aspect that might be I would like to see is a little bit more accountability from the officiating side of the game, not individual refs, but just the officiating, the entire like the officiating union or like whoever runs it and all of that. And because as we've seen throughout these playoffs, like numerous times, there's these controversial plays, and the response that we get from the league and from the official supervisors and all them is completely dismissive and doesn't actually address the thing at hand. That there's no sense of accountability for like, yeah, we fucked up. Don't like it's some like garbage corporate fluff answer that doesn't actually say anything.
well, it also could be like a union thing.
You can't like call out specific people
Yeah,
for that.
we're not gonna publicize mistakes made in the workplace to create a toxic environment where people are afraid to make mistakes or something. Like I could see it that way. Like it might be like in their agreement that like we're not gonna publicize our like our disciplinary actions,
Right.
you know, sort of like teams won't do that for certain things. They won't say like why a team member wasn't at practice or something. It's just I don't know what it is, but I mean for fans it would be nice to know that stuff and know that it's happening rather than just behind closed doors something might happen.
Very true. Very true.
But something has to happen because it just seems like the amount of missed calls or wrong calls just skyrocketed this postseason.
I feel like it maybe it's not like there were more missed calls, but the ones that happened were just such like so more important or impactful on the outcome of the game, where it's like that missed call completely changed the turn of the tide of the game, or it was on the overtime winner, or on like 2 seconds before another goal was scored or something. It's like there's a lot of missed calls every game, but a lot of times it's just like, oh, that's a missed call, and then nothing happens for 5 minutes after that, so it's not really relevant anymore.
Right. I wonder if there's any value in bringing in some sort of special postseason rules for things like review. Because during the regular season, reviewing, we saw that when the offside challenge came in, it was abused and it slowed down games. And, it took a couple seasons for them to install into the penalty rule if you got it wrong on offsides.
Which, to be
And
honest,
then they
has kind of solved that issue.
yeah, that definitely solved it. But then if you start bringing in more reviews for different types of plays and everything, then the game gets really slow, which you wouldn't want over an 82 game season for 31 teams. But maybe in playoffs there could be some additional process that's brought in because it matters so much more. I
I
think that
kind
would
of
be kind of
agree, yeah.
cool.
Like, to be honest, I've been thinking of, I don't know how to word it, but just like a continuous review system where the
Right.
games are being watched in real time by like not by off-site people, like probably in a situation room, to the point that if something were challenged on the ice, that there would already be the review being undertaken so that it wouldn't take as long. Or the officials on the ice would be able to very quickly collaborate with the situation room officials who have already been watching the play, or identifying what the issues are going to be to help address the length of the review.
Yeah, I think just giving the officials more resources is a good thing. Giving the people in Toronto more authority to make calls on plays would be great. I
Yeah.
mean, you see it
And
in the last 2 minutes or whatever, like every goal is
mhm.
reviewed. Why don't you just make that every goal is reviewed in playoffs?
and And we see that too. It doesn't even delay the game too much. Like it might be 5 seconds before they get the go ahead.
Right.
Because most goals are totally fine.
Yeah. Most like I don't know if every single goal reviewed, but just like have some sort of a challenge, like a universal challenge, rather than like Boston is challenging for offside. Just be like Boston is challenging, and then they analyze like the play. Maybe Boston can say like, "Oh, we think this happened." Whatever. We think there was a glove hand pass, and then they review it. Yeah. Like I said, like during the full season, that would be fucking tedious and cost a lot of money and be boring as fuck to watch and have to wait 5 minutes for a review on every single goal. But in playoffs, I mean, can it be abused still? Yes, it can definitely kill
Well,
momentum.
that's what ended up happening with the offside in the first place. Was coaches would use the offside challenge on something that's not even remotely close as basically a 2-minute timeout, because all you lose is the
Right.
3-second timeout. So yeah, I actually, and on that universal challenge versus specific one, like how annoying is it when you're watching a review for like goaltender interference, and it's very clear that the puck didn't actually like cross the line, or you can't see it cross the line, but because it's a specific challenge for goaltender interference and they can't go back and review the other thing, it's like, well, they can't reverse the goal for that. So it stands and you can't actually tell if it's gone in the net or not. So yeah, that would make more sense that with like a universal challenge to just say, okay, we don't think this went in the net properly or whatever. Like you can't see it go in the net. Like you need to be able to.
Yeah, and I think it's going to have some traction based on just some of the situations that happened this postseason. You saw like with Vegas, like their season ended on basically on one of those calls.
Would you put this universal challenge on to penalties as well or just goals?
I don't know. I just think that there needs to be some accountability of referees real time for calls. I'm not sure how to implement it. I don't think it's going to be implemented anytime soon. I don't see the NHL doing that. I just think as a fan, it would be beneficial. But as a league, I don't think that they would do it because it has to come from the owners, and there's only one that's pissed off about it. So I'm not sure. I don't know how I feel about the penalty stuff. I think yeah, it's like you were saying before, like review. This is earlier podcast. You were saying like review like the violent type penalties.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Review contact or like majors and stuff, but like leave out stick infractions unless it's some sort of like violent slash to the point that it would get an ejection anyways. But it's like anything that's been called for 5 in a game, or head contact, boarding, charging, stuff like that, to I don't know, make sure it's the right call or make sure it's being called.
Right.
It's
I'm
definitely a
just
change.
I'm just hesitant because I don't want to take away from the flow of the game too much because it's already so slow. You have the existing reviews and you have TV timeouts, and just to add more to that would slow the game down, and then you'd end up with like basketball, right?
Cut and chopped into little pieces, and it's just constantly starting and
Yeah, like
stopping,
what is
and
it, 15-minute quarters,
middle of the play, I think, like.
and it takes like an hour for the last 2 minutes of the game because teams take all their timeouts, which is a full TV timeout, which is longer than the intermission between quarters. And then you have like someone got fouled, so let's take another like TV timeout, and then we come back, and the guy takes 2 free throws, and then like the next whistle will do like a team will take a timeout, and it's just like fuck, like it's so hard to watch, and I really don't want that to happen in hockey. I like the fast pace, and I like how it just keeps going. It's always the best when there's a game that you're watching and there's like no whistles. You get like
That is when time just flies. When it's just a good back and forth game where you go like 8 minutes
That's
without
what
a
the first
whistle.
period of this game felt like until the Blues scored. It was back and forth and it just flew by, and like before you knew it, it was halfway through the period. I remember the first TV timeout, I think was at like 9 minutes or something. So it was like right before the Blues scored. And it was like, holy shit, where did that period go? Like it's already halfway through.
Yeah, and here I am sitting there like being sad this is the last period of hockey for the year,
Yeah.
and it's just going by super super
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, that's sad, but we have a potentially exciting off season to look forward to.
I mean, on paper, it's shaping up to be like probably the most high end free agent trade period in a long time, and also one of the first times that there isn't a consensus number one in the draft. And like the top 10 is so all over the place that there's no two like analysts are putting teams picking the same players. Like there's all of them are
Yeah, there
different.
could be a lot of movement this offseason.
There's some big names that are coming up for his
Yeah,
free
there's some
agents.
cap room trouble, and there's some players that have expressed desires to move. And yeah, I mean, you made that blog post about Columbus earlier in the year, and
Check it out at clappercast.com.
quick plug. That one is going to be particularly interesting to monitor, just exactly how they navigate this offseason and how they get, keep momentum off of winning their first ever playoff series and get back into playoffs this upcoming season.
Yeah, like they absolutely with if they're able to trade Alexander Wenberg, they absolutely have the space to keep all of their players,
Wow.
I think. All of the guys they just acquired anyways. But at that point it becomes like, do you bother keeping Dzingel when you have Wenberg and they're both kind of a similar midline winger? You've got Panarin and Bobrovsky who have more or less expressed desires not
Yeah.
to stay, whether it be saying it or in just their actions. Duchesne, it sounds like he kind of wants to stay there, to be honest. I haven't seen anything like this is a guy who we know exactly when he wants out of the city he's in, and we haven't seen him saying anything he wants out, except I think he had a brief post put on his Instagram thanking the Columbus area and organization. I think that was him, but it got deleted very quickly.
He's saving it.
Yeah.
Summer.
So, they could have gone all in for nothing. I mean, it was still, I think it was worth it for them, for that team to finally, have their most successful season ever. Yeah, they sacrificed a little bit, but I think it was worth it for them.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to do something at least exciting.
Also, that may start to trigger more GMs to be a little bit more bold on trade deadline day
Hopefully.
or in that period.
That's fun to watch.
I mean, it's not fun to like watch all of these guys have to go and uproot their lives for 2 months, like to go play as a rental somewhere else and all that, and just kind of like trade it around like commodities. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a big day in the league, and you want to see your team get these guys come in so they can help push for the playoffs or get some draft picks to start saving up for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, it's been a lot of like third liners for mid round draft picks and stuff, or like someone somehow fetching a first round draft pick when they're definitely not worth that.
Yeah, I think it's just like the hype around the trade deadline is
Yeah,
fun. It's like very you get caught up in it, and it's just a fun part of
totally.
the season, right before playoffs, and you see a team just get pushed over the edge a little bit to be able to win, and it's oftentimes not the big move that works, and just people pick up little small things works out. I mean, like look at Boston, pick up
Well, Marcus Johansson,
Mojo, Charlie Coyle.
like those were two incredible acquisitions that I don't think too many people are saying Boston was winning trade deadline day, but they probably got two of the better players out of the
Yeah.
trade deadline.
St. Louis didn't do anything, right?
I don't
I don't
think
think they did
so.
either.
Definitely didn't do much.
I mean, their big move was in the offseason, getting O'Reilly.
Exactly. Because I think by the trade deadline, like they stopped doing anything because they thought they were
Yeah.
going to make it. There was more hope, I guess, that they were going to be able to. Because at one point, half the team was on the trade block, basically. Like everybody
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Yeah, all they did was get Michael Delzato.
that pushed them over the edge.
Absolutely.
It was like they traded away Stasny 2 seasons ago,
Hmm.
and they were all mad about it. Remember that because they were in a playoff spot, and they traded him to the Jets. And
Yeah,
I think it might have been like Steam or something.
I don't
It
think
was
that was
like
a. I don't think that. I think that worked out pretty well for them because then they got Bozak. I mean, they really. That's pretty much lateral. Like they got something for Stasny, who may or may not have left after the season, and then they just signed Bozak.
right.
And I mean, they fill the same role basically. I think Stasny might be a little bit more
All
offensive,
things
maybe.
considered, I think they did okay considering
I
tonight's
think so.
result.
Yeah. Yes. Regardless of how good or bad the move was, it all worked out. Therefore,
Yeah.
it's a good move.
So what are you looking forward to most in the offseason? Are you looking forward to the St. Louis Blues party wagon? Or are you looking forward to the draft? Are you looking forward to signings? Like what's your number one?
I'm interested. I want to see what Ken Holland does with the Oilers, and if he can identify where to improve the team to make them fit better with the NHL as the way it's going. Because Chiarelli managed to build a team that would have been successful like 10 years ago, and now they need to adjust to that. And Ken Holland needs to come in and make some moves to improve the speed, improve the aggression, improve their pace of play, and most importantly, provide winger depth, which I don't know how he's going to do other than waiting for prospects to develop. So I really want to see. I'm curious to see what he identifies as the main issues with the Oilers roster right now, and how he addresses them. How about you?
That's probably not up there for me as not a diehard Oilers fan. I think up there for me is to see what Columbus does, see what happens to that team. They could lose some pretty significant parts of their team, as we just talked about. Kind of just thinking out loud here. I'm interested to see what Steve Yzerman does with the Red Wings. See if he makes any crazy moves or what, or how he does at the draft.
That's going to be a pretty huge draft
I think
for
so,
them.
definitely.
It's going to set the tide for probably what's he got another 2, 3, 4 years on their rebuild before they start turning it around.
Probably.
So it's going to set a pretty big tide or a pretty big tone for them.
Another thing
moving forward.
Another thing that I'm interested to see is where Hall ends up. If he stays in New Jersey or if he's going to be on the move, and if so, where he ends up.
That is going to be interesting, actually. He's not a free agent until next offseason, but they're already talking about his next contract. So there's been absolutely nothing confirmed. So we can't really even discuss, we don't even know where they're at on either side, really. But what we're seeing now, especially with Jeff Skinner's contract, if Jeff Skinner got $9 million, how much is Hall going to be able to get? And Hall is more injury prone. He's a way better player, but he's injured a lot. I don't know how his defensive play has gotten. If he's kind of less of a one-dimensional player and better all around. I assume he is, since he got the MVP. But he could really make it difficult for the Devils if he starts wanting a lot. So they're gonna have Hischier and whoever they take first overall this year to worry about signing.
Probably Hughes. Yeah, they got a lot of really young, really good players, and I don't know.
Now they have a lot of cap space right now, I might add.
Well,
and Hall is already making $6 million, so probably another 5 at least on that.
I could see him wanting out because of just to be on a competitive team now and to be able to have a chance at winning.
Well, we know at this point that he can't be. His team has to be in the lottery every single year.
That's the reason, though.
There actually is
I could see him moving.
Talk in Edmonton, anyways, about bringing him back to Edmonton after next offseason or after next season. Now it's entirely rumor, anecdotal based from the Oilers' internal reporter, basically, who said that Hall would be open to it.
Player is open to playing with Connor McDavid.
Probably.
I saw in the news that you texted me about it too, but that Lucic, Perry, Vancouver, Anaheim, Edmonton, three-way.
Yeah,
shit going on.
There was talk of a 3-way trade between Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver for Milan Lucic, James Neal, and Louis Eriksson.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 3 of the worst contracts in the league just swapping places.
Now Oilers are rumored to be in on Corey Perry.
I don't think they're rumored to be in on it. I think that was just Drager speculating. I don't think anyone from Edmonton has actually talked about that, and I don't think it's going to happen. I hope not, but I think that was just him speculating that Perry might be a good fit in Edmonton.
I don't think so. I think if they're trying to be less,
he's literally. I mean, if Chiarelli was still there, I can see it happening because he's exactly the type of player that Chiarelli would want to bring in, older, physical, slow, questionable, everything. But I don't see any value in bringing him in when you already have Lucic to begin with and 4 other bigger physical players who are faster and younger and better.
Cheaper. Yeah, I don't think you got to bring in that type of player. I think you got to bring in some more scoring. And he was complete ass when he wasn't hurt this season. So I don't think you don't have to be a genius to not see the fit there, right?
Yeah, and the whole deal was bringing him in for veteran leadership, and quite honestly, I don't get that sense that he is a veteran leader in any use of the word.
He's a Ducks player. That's just the mentality, the Ducks. I don't see him
Yeah,
really fitting in on any other team except for like Philly.
pretty
And
much.
I don't think Philly is in a position to want him. I don't think anybody's in a position to want him after how he played. Like he just looked terrible. So
I think the reason he's in a lot of speculation is I saw the Ducks might be buying him out, so he could sign elsewhere for a lot cheaper than he's on right now.
okay, Brooks Orpik 2.0,
Yeah, maybe
buy him out or trade him, then they'll buy him out and then sign him for a league minimum.
for a lot cheaper.
I wonder if the Caps are going to sign Orpik for another contract.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is Orpik retired or is he going to? Like, have you seen any talk
I
about that?
haven't. I was thinking about it the other day. I wonder if he's going to retire or not. He probably should. I would like to see some of the Caps younger guys get minutes. Get more Christian Juice and Siegenthaler, get some minutes, maybe.
Siegenthaler looked good through the year, so it'd be good to see him
Yeah,
get more
yeah.
of a role.
And if got a lot of other younger D-men that could play in a sheltered minute kind of role. But yeah, I think he's probably going to retire. I think this was kind of his one last shot. But I mean, he wasn't the worst D-man in the league, so maybe
No, I mean, for all things considered, he did fairly good over the
yeah,
season, I
I was
think.
glad to have him back. He has his moments, but he's not the worst guy in the league, like I said. So plus like a huge leader. Big part of the team. So I hope if he does retire that he stays on in like some sort of capacity with the team. I could see that happening.
Maybe does he have like a younger family right now? Maybe take a bit of time off, but come back in a couple years.
Yeah, I think he's got a family, but he's like one of those guys who's like insane training. So I could see him doing like some sort of like,
Like a strength and conditioning
yeah,
coach.
like he's insane about his training. He's just known for it. So that would be kind of a good fit.
He can become Ovi's personal trainer to keep Ovi going until he's 40.
I hope so. I hope Ovechkin stays here
That would
until
be
he's
that would be
40.
awesome.
I really hope he doesn't go back to Russia after this contract expires, so he can play in the Olympics.
That's a worry now, isn't it?
Yep.
He kind of like vaguely hinted at
Oh
it.
yeah. Not um, not even vaguely. He's just said like playing in the Olympics is like super important to me, and it's his next contract is going to be contingent upon if the NHL is going to be able to go to the Olympics. I bet. I think if he is able to go
Or
from the
maybe
NHL, he'll stay and resign. But if the NHL is out, I think he's gone.
wonder if Leonsis would just give him permission to go anyways.
I mean, that's probably I mean, the Leonsis has said that before.
Yeah, he did. That's why I thought of it again. Like Ovi can go if he wants, and we'll just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, he got the cup. If we don't, I don't know. I feel like Ovechkin will do it no matter what. So if Leonsis is smart and Ovechkin is still
I
around,
hope he stays because I want to see that record.
that's the thing. I don't want Ovechkin to be the next Yager and be like, imagine if he didn't ever go to the KHL, right? I want Ovi to play the rest of his career in the NHL because he's already been fucked by having, shortened season and a lockout.
Yeah, he's already missed a season and a half, but like at his pace, that is a solid 70 goals.
He's been fucked over by that, so I want him to keep going and get that record broken. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss? Anything burning in your mind?
I think the only spot that we kind of glossed over, I kind of glossed over, was talking about Binnington through the playoffs.
Oh yeah. And Rask.
And just and Rask too. Yeah, Rask was by far the best goalie in the playoffs. He absolutely kept the Bruins in it and every single game. And most of the stuff that went in, it didn't even end up being faulted to him. He never let in a bad goal. He was always making the big saves.
Yep.
So, Rask, honestly, I don't know if he got like Conn Smythe consideration or like how that's voted for, but he definitely deserves the attention he was getting for it.
I'm glad he didn't win because I didn't want to see another JS Jaguar sad goalie on Smythe.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he should have won it. I don't think he was as good as Jaguar, which seems to be like the precedent they set for the losing goalie winning it. But he definitely deserved a nod. Like he was good enough to probably get consideration for it. He was by far the best Bruin.
yeah, he was amazing. Yeah, and Binnington
And in terms of Binnington too, like he wasn't the best goalie in the playoffs, and I think he had one of the lower save percentages for a cup winning goalie ever. But he made the big saves when he needed to. And that's what's important, is that he stepped up in important moments, and he wasn't consistently giving up a lot of goals. There were just a couple of games that were
Yeah,
bad.
there's a couple where he got shellacked, got pulled for the first time, in the finals. It was fucking first time ever in his career to get pulled. I mean, in the NHL, but
Yeah, so he only had a 911 save percentage in the playoffs, which like that's not very good for the playoffs, to be honest. Usually it's up like 920, 930. But like I said, he made the important saves,
100%.
and
Yeah, for
the
sure.
defense in front of him covered for it. And in other times, and being able to collapse into the slot and just cover up shooting lanes and block any chance at a high scoring chance rebound. So that it was a team effort defensively, and Binnington did exactly as good as he needed to.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it reminded me a lot of Matt Murray. I think Matt Murray had a higher save percentage, but just that rookie goalie coming in, being super calm, being lights out when he needs to be, making the big saves, as you said, and winning the
Well,
goal.
even Murray had way better stats than
Oh yeah,
Binnington. He had in their two wins. He had 923 and 937 save
yeah. Like I
percentages.
said, like Murray had better stats, but just reminds me of that, like,
Yeah,
rookie kind of sensation goalie coming in and backstopping the team.
which like what a story too, just to have like this rookie goalie show up out of nowhere. Like he was almost being pushed out of the organization a year ago. He was playing. I think he was like loaned out to Boston's ECA or Boston's AHL team because like St. Louis had no room for him. They were trying to send him down to the ECHL, and Binnington
Well,
wouldn't go.
well, we'll see if he wins a cup next year.
Yeah,
Ty Matt Murray. Yeah. Yeah, I mean the goalies were outstanding, but I wouldn't say it was a goalie duel.
no,
At least the series. Game 7, Bennington made some crazy saves. I mean they made some nice saves the whole series, but it was definitely wasn't a traditional goalie battle where it was like low scoring, kind of like next goal wins sort of thing. It was more
hmm
of a just like a momentum game. Like the series was just all about momentum and responding to switches and momentum.
I agree on that. It was all in the response.
St. Louis was better, bouncing back.
Yeah, like because St. Louis, because they lost two games pretty badly, and they came back and played very well both
Yeah,
times
coming back
after.
from a loss.
And yeah, coming back from a loss in Game 6 to go back to play a road game
On the road, yeah, that's even more
even.
special.
And how they responded to getting pretty much shit kicked by the Bruins in the first 10 minutes, completely dominated. But they just stayed calm. They played their game, they played their team game, and bounced back with a couple of
Yeah.
quick goals.
Well, I mean that sounds like it's kind of coming to a close here. Um, that's
That was
it.
it.
That's all she wrote. That's the that's 2018-2019 season. It's over. It's done. It's time to cry.
I'm doing that right now. That's why I'm speechless.
No
I'm
hockey.
trying to think of the right words to close off a season, but I don't have them
No
right now.
hockey for 4
Time
months.
to be bored for three
Yeah,
months.
3 or 4. Is it like
Well, I consider training camp and preseason
oh
good
yeah.
enough because there's stuff happens again. So I just say 3 because it makes me feel better.
Always round down, right? All right, well, don't forget to subscribe to the Clappercast on whatever platform you listen to us on. Throw us a bone and like us. Maybe throw us a comment, rate us, whatever you do. Uh, follow us
Throw us
on,
a share and share to your family and
yeah,
friends, or just throw the podcast to them.
yeah.
That works
Throw
too.
your phone at them.
Yeah, listen to this.
Like us on Instagram. Um, probably gonna be still active over the off season. We know we'll be making posts on the website. And with that, Sean, it's time to cry. It's over. Catch you guys next time.